Police Psychics. Find me.
Hello everyone, this is Kelly Snyder with Valerie Graham, and Find Me, Police Psychics and More, produced and broadcast by Zeus Radio Network for Hear Women Talk. Today's guest is Dan Baldwin, and just a little bit of a repeat, the Find Me group is a group of retired law enforcement, and we do have a couple that are current law enforcement. 110 psychics currently, and it seems to be growing every single day. And we have 25 search and rescue dogs, and currently we are in the state of Washington searching for a missing person. So welcome to the show, Dan. Glad to have you.
No, glad to be here.
Well, Dan, we're really glad you are here, and I want to say that we're also watching the chat line on HearWomenTalk.com, and feel free to come on. You can ask questions and hear comments, and we'll answer you live. And those of you who might have a question today for Dan can call us, or for Kelly, at 914-338-1186, 914-338-1186. Kelly, I know that it has been written that Dan Baldwin, of course, is on the team of Find Me, and that he has the least ambiguous of psychic skills, and namely that you are a dowser, Dan. Do you agree with that it's the least ambiguous of psychic skills?
Yeah, I'm a dowser, and the technique goes back, thousands and thousands of years. So it may be one of the oldest also.
Does it just give you a yes or a no, or a here or a there? Is that why there's not so much doubt?
That's the only way you can make it work. If you're working I work with a pendulum, which is basically a rock on a string. And you have to ask the questions, yes, no, either or type questions, yes, no, up, down, back, forth. You can't ask multiple choice questions.
What when you're doing that, Dan, what are you doing it over? Is it a map, or is it just asking questions, looking for movement? When you first start on a case, for example, what exactly are you doing? How do you start your session?
Yeah, that will depend on the situation, but as a general rule, I try to meditate for 5 or 10 minutes just to get centered before I do anything, and then I do what I call praying in, and I just ask for help. And to people who aren't religious, I say, well, ask for help to the universe or the spirit or whatever, the great power or whatever. If you're not into that, ask your subconscious. Just help me do a really good job. And then I start asking questions.
Well, when you're working on a case, for example, say, let's just start it out with a murder case, and you know that there's a dead body. Now we're looking for the suspect. What after your meditation, which to some degree, like you said, gets you centered and balanced and ready for the session, but to some degree it also sounds like what most of the psychics do. They're meditating, and they're taking time to get centered just before they start their particular procedure. So is that similar to what you do? And
I think that's almost universal. Regardless of the skill, we all take a few minutes just to clear ourselves and to connect. But what I do at that point, I start asking questions. Say we're looking for Mr. X. I want to ask, is Mr. X, alive? And, the answer would be yes or no. We know it's a murder victim. Say the body has been found. We're trying to find, say the body is missing. Is that what we're looking at?
Well, like, for example, Mark Stover case, the one we just got back from looking for his body in Washington State. Matter of fact, Christy Smith,
she's still up there.
She's still there. She's got at least one more day. We should be finalizing it today, and of course we're hoping that she finds something today. But that case is still at trial. But say 98%, if not 99.9%, it's guaranteed that this Mark Stover guy is deceased. So in that particular case, you worked it. How did you start on that one?
Okay, in a case like that, which is fairly common, I end up map dowsing. And what I do is, let's say he was marked, let's say we didn't know where he was. Let's say he was marked in the United States. Break that down, northeast quadrant, northwest quadrant. Break that down. Is he in, say, Oregon or Washington? Say I would get a yes on Washington. At that point, I would get probably an atlas out and break the state down into quadrants, or is he north of this interstate, east of this interstate, and break it down further.
Well, you knew he was from Anacortes, so you wouldn't necessarily start.
I'm assuming we didn't know that. This is how I would get to Anacortes.
Okay, well that's my point. You don't just start where you know he's from. You still broaden it just on the chance that his body and or he, alive or deceased, was transported to a different area. It
could be transported, or if someone fell in the water, it could be naturally transported.
True.
Yeah. So anyway, you now basically through yes or no questions, you narrow it down to a very narrow area, and at that point, I go on to Google Earth and try to get within, which is our goal. I try to get within a few feet of the target.
You've been quite accurate with that, haven't you?
I tend to be extremely accurate or extremely way out base. There doesn't seem to be any middle ground.
Well, you told a very interesting. You told an interesting story, Dan, when we had chatted earlier about a time that there was actually almost a crosswire where you got the information correct, but it was actually for a different case, and that was a fascinating story. Texas and Santa Fe. I'd love you to share that with us.
Okay, yeah, we were working on the case someplace in Texas. And I was getting, through the pendulum, I was getting very specific answers. I mean, I was getting, again, this takes a long time, but I was getting specific street numbers, specific street addresses. I was getting names, directions of travel, clues like, a Volkswagen car was used. There was a sign with a big T on it on the side of the road. There was this type of industrial building on that side of the road. And when the case was finally solved, none of that fit. I mean, not a bit of it. I said, well, okay, I just had a bad day. Psychic work is like anything else. You have good days and bad days. 6 months later, I'm visiting a friend in Santa Fe, and I tell him that I'm involved in the psychic work. He says, we got to take a look at this case. And we went down to their local store in the corner, and we got one of the posters, and everything I had found about the Texas case fit precisely the Santa Fe case. So I was
Wasn't that Dan? It was one was a boy, and then the actual
Robbie Robertson was one of them, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were looking. I believe we were looking for a little girl in Texas, but I was picking up Robbie Robertson. Yeah.
So where do you figure that? It was 100% accurate, but how do you think the wires got crossed? Any ideas?
On something like that, I haven't a clue. It could have been just simply that while I was working, I had a fleeting thought about Santa Fe. I have friends up there.
So you might have just focused over
just
there.
As simple as that might have fit the brain focus up there instead of over in Texas.
So you're looking for this rock on a string, and some of the dowsers I've seen have some really elaborate rocks on strings, some of them that are, very costly, but what is it telling you? I mean, how does it work? You're standing there with a string.
What I would like to bring out, excuse me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just curious what you're actually looking for. There is a technique. You're looking for left, right, circle, all these different things. So, tell us what the little rock does and gives you the clue that sends you down the path.
Okay, yeah, something I would like to bring out is there is no magic in the rock on the string.
Right.
None whatsoever. It's just literally a rock on a string, or a piece of wood, or a crystal, whatever. The magic, put that in quotes, is in the subconscious mind. And what happens is when you swing the pendulum, your conscious mind focuses on the pendulum motion, and then your subconscious is alive to work on the actual case itself. You can tap into whatever it is we're tapping into out there. So the general rule is a circle to the right is a yes answer, a circle to the left is a no answer, and then if you get a back and forth movement, you need to rephrase the question.
So it's as simple as that. Right is correct.
It's as simple as that, and it's time consuming.
Well, yeah, because every single question you have to wait for the rock to do its thing, and you're sitting there as motionless as possible, so whatever is happening is based on everything I've ever heard, is based on energy, and the outside entity, whatever that is coming through to the rock, which is the energy, to try to give you the correct answer. Is that somewhat close to the truth?
Yeah, and people should know that the actual movement of the pendulum is caused by physical motion of your hand, by the muscles in your hand. It's not magic, but what is making those muscles move is your subconscious mind tapping in.
Okay.
So you're tapping into that, whatever we tap into, going through your subconscious, then it goes through your hand, and that's how you get the answers.
Well, of course, the dowsing, when you said it, was something that took place years ago. Back then, what were they essentially looking for? I know that there used to be dowsers for water, and give me some other ideas of what, when this whole thing started.
We have woodcuts of silver and gold miners back in, say, the 1300s Europe, and it's clearly dowsers. They're using the old willow stick, but they're looking for gold and silver. And it's my understanding they have drawings on, not the pyramids, but Egyptian artwork that shows dowsers at work.
So that is a long way back.
So I figure anything that's hung around that long, there's got to be something to it.
Well, in your American Society of Dowsers, apparently there was a neuropsychological study on brainwaves that said that the human body has a direction-finding ability built into it. How do you feel about that?
Well, ask my wife about our vacations.
So you don't think that helps you with dowsing if you can tap into it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but all she's ever looking for is Starbucks, isn't she?
That's right.
Exactly.
Well,
I just wanted to, stay with that thought, but one of the things I did want to sort of find out about is what is the biggest challenge, whether it's a missing person or, a person that has been murdered and you're trying to find the suspect. So with that thought in mind, we're going to take a couple minutes for a break, Dan, and we'll be right back with you to Hear Women Talk with Dan Baldwin.
Dowser. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jessica Dorvaj, host of the Where Is My Guru show, and you are listening to Hear Women Talk Radio. The definition of guru is to lead from darkness to light, and one who is regarded as having great knowledge, wisdom, and authority in a certain area and who uses it to guide others. Join us on Fridays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Where Is My Guru show, where gurus from the areas of art, travel, creative activism, wellness, and the spa share their infinite wisdom and maybe a glass of wine. Fridays at 3 p.m. right here on Hear Women Talk Radio.
Tonight, take an adventure on the Myrtle Beach Ghost Walk. Explore the haunted swamps where alligators and the ghosts from long ago still reside. Stroll across floating walkways beneath the Spanish moss as your pirate guide leads you by lantern and shares 13 spooky tales along the way. The Ghost Walk departs nightly at dusk, only at Barefoot Landing in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Call 843-361-2700 or visit MyrtleBeachGhostWalk.com for advance tickets. The Myrtle Beach Ghost Walk.
Have you always wanted a reading by a famous psychic detective or medical intuitive? I'm Annette, hostess of Annette Martin's Psychic World, where you can call in or go to our chat room to get a free reading on my radio show. Our expert guests will be talking about ways to help you in your life. So give us a call and ask a question. Please join us every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on Annette Martin's Psychic World.
When you're in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, home of Zeus Broadcast Network and Hear Women Talk, there's a wonderful adventure that you should try. Carolina Safari Jeep Tours.
Go to www.carolinasafari.com and check